I teach Introduction to Film at a local community college. Go ahead and make up your own assumptions about how my career aspirations to direct films actually went. My students are not bad, but a few of them are serious about filmmaking. This is a blow, of course. They sign up figuring that it's an easy credit, where all you do is watch a couple of movies and maybe write a short page every few weeks. But usually each semester there is one student that is very serious about the craft. My favorite was Daisy. She was fresh out of high school and still in the goth phase, but she was dedicated to the class. She took notes, asked questions, and would even show up early to discuss my opinion on new films. Her interest mostly lied in horror. Because of this and everyone else's general lack of real enthusiasm, I started to discuss horror films more often. I told the class about some of my favorite horror films. The list wasn't long, as I generally cared more for serious dramas. Horror always seemed so fake in comparison because the acting was never genuine. Very few people know true terror, so it is hard to capture it on film. That is why I tried to teach that filming the real thing always makes the film more engaging, and this is why there are so few truly great horror films. I tried to show them the few that got it right. First, we watched a clip from Alien where the creature bursts from John Hurt's chest. I told them how the actors were only given vague details about what was going to happen. They didn't know that an alien would literally be bursting out of his chest and spraying blood all over them. Those reactions were genuine. You can see the terror on their face as they back away. Next, we watched The Shining in its entirety. Before we began, we talked about Stanley Kubrick's treatment of Shelley Duvall on the set. He put her under so much pressure and stress that her hair began to fall out, and it shows in the final product. You believe this is a woman going through hell because she literally was. For months on end, she was endured in the name of art. For the first time in my teaching career, I was sad to see a semester end. Daisy really enjoyed the class, and I loved teaching her. She stayed after the rest of the class had left on her last day, and said that I had really inspired her and she would be shooting her first short film soon. I couldn't wait to see it. Unfortunately, Daisy took the whole making a real thing a bit further than I am comfortable with. I next saw her about a month later. She showed up with her arm in a sling, and the traces of a healing black eye and busted lip on her face. But she was also smiling. She had a DVD in her hand which she excitedly said contained her first film. We sat down to watch it together in my office. She really took everything I said to heart. The film was called The Anniversary Dinner. She wrote, directed, and starred in it with her actual boyfriend, a creepy man at least 10 years her senior. It started off showing the two of them sitting awkward around a candlelit table, both pushing food around their plates, but not eating. Neither one spoke for several minutes, before the boyfriend suddenly tosses the plate off the table and slams his hands on the table. He starts screaming, almost incoherently, making vague references to how he can no longer trust her and can't believe she did that to him. Daisy begins to sob. It was real? I feared that Daisy might have suffered through the speech once or twice before. Eventually, the boyfriend grabs Daisy, lifting her out of the chair, and slaps her across the face. She falls to the ground, but he doesn't stop. He strikes her again and again. At one point, when she stops trying to get up, he grabs her by the arm and yanks. I could actually hear it pop out of the shoulder joint. At this point, I had to shut the film off. She looked disappointed. This changed straight to anger when I tried to explain that she took things too far. Daisy argued that all she did was what I said: make good films. Before storming out of my office, I injected the DVD and accepted that to be the end of it. I was sad that I probably would never speak to my favorite student again, but you don't accept these relationships to last forever. So imagine my surprise when months later, I found a note slid under my office door. It was an invitation sent by Daisy. She made another film and wanted me to come see it. She was holding a whole mock premiere at her house, just her and her family, but she wanted me to come over. By this time, a new semester had started and I was bored to tears with a group of students that just didn't care. I really missed Daisy and hate to admit it. but I really wanted to see her new film. The last one was disturbing, but it was impossible to deny that she had talent. So I went to the premiere. She greeted me at the door with a smile and a hug. I was surprised. I guess she was completely over the fight we had last time I saw her. She walked me into the living room where I saw the boyfriend from the prior film, sitting with his legs up on the coffee table. He briefly looked up from his phone, giving me a smirk, before going back to whatever it was he was looking at. I wasn't happy to see this creep there. I don't care if she asked him to hit her for the film. He should have known it was wrong. I feared what he did to this girl when the camera wasn't rolling. I looked Daisy up and down. She was still nothing but smiles, and I was glad to see no signs of fresh bruises or scars on her. I asked her what the new film was about, but she said she wanted it to be a surprise and pointed me to a seat. Daisy sat next to me and grabbed the remote as the boyfriend got up and shut off the lights. I started to open my mouth to ask where the rest of the family was, but Daisy shushed me and started the movie. A lump formed in my throat as the picture came into focus. It was Daisy, nude, and tied to a bed, all four limbs tied to different bedposts. I tried to speak again, but felt the boyfriend's hands clamp down on my shoulders. He leaned in real close, lips almost pressed up against my ears, and whispered, "Just relax and enjoy the show, champ." Before pressing down harder on my shoulders, I don't think I could have gotten up if I wanted to. The film continued, like the previous one. It was all shot from one static camera angle, like the most pure found footage film. Daisy squirmed against her restraints to no avail, and then the door opened. The boyfriend, dressed in all black and with a skull painted on his face, walked into the room. He takes a moment to stare straight into the camera and smiles before slowly approaching the bed. Daisy screaming and pulling aggressively at her restraints the whole time. She pulls hard enough that blood starts to bead and drip around her wrist restraints. The grip on my shoulders had loosened at this point, and I hurriedly grabbed Daisy by the wrist. I ran my fingers along her wrist and looked closely. No signs of the trauma shown in the film. "I listened to what you said last time. I know hurting myself for art isn't acceptable. Please enjoy the film." This allowed me to relax a little. I slid back into my chair and continued to watch. There wasn't much of a plot, just torture that I don't want to go into too much detail about. He hurts her a lot. Daisy tears up and welts can be seen on her flesh. I couldn't figure out how she was able to film this without any cuts to conceal the special effects. Finally, after 10 brutal minutes, the climax of the film arrived, when the boyfriend produced a knife and drove it into Daisy's gut repeatedly. Daisy's screams lessened with each stab. The gore was hard to look at, really well done, but difficult to stomach. The anguish and pain on her face sold it to the next level. I felt myself getting queasy, and eventually it was just too much. I leaped off the couch and ran to find a bathroom, but I never made it. I ended up throwing up in the middle of the hallway. By the time I finished and was able to collect myself, Daisy and her boyfriend were standing in the hallway watching me. "What do you think?" she asked. I grabbed a nearby table and used it to lift myself up to my feet. That's when I saw the picture on the table. Daisy's whole family. Mother, father, Daisy, and her twin sister. I spun around, my face dripping sweat. "Well, did you like it?" she asked again. I ran out of the house and into my car as fast as I could. I was shocked that the boyfriend didn't stop me. When I hit the gas to speed away, they were both on the porch watching. I called the cops as soon as I felt safe that they weren't coming after me. They found the couple still in the house, wrapped in each other's arms and watching the movie again. They also found the corpses upstairs. That's right, plural. They had not only killed Daisy's sister, but her parents as well. Daisy would tell the cops that it was to complete her thematic trilogy. I don't watch movies anymore. Obviously, I quit my position at the college. I still find myself at fault for those 3 deaths. It's hard to sleep. My insomnia leads to a lot of nights endless surfing the internet. You know how that can be. One site leads to another and you find yourself asking, how did I end up here? Recently, I found myself on a site that somehow had a copy of Daisy's second film, and the raw footage of the third, which I have never seen before. The comments on those videos, just praise, and the links to their own works. I inspired Daisy, and she inspired many others. I look back on my Film 101 course, and with dark humor, I now think of it as a Snuff Film 101. It has come full circle, I'm afraid. I plan on shooting my own spiritual successor to Daisy's films. It's the only way I can think of to end this, adding one more body to the count. My own.